Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
What's going on, everybody? Wow. I almost went into my my Ears Up my Disney podcast at earsup-podcast.com. I almost went into that spiel for some reason.
Over.
No, I'm not starting over. I'm keeping it in. It's a good plug, man. What are you talking about? Listen, if you like Disney history, go to Ears Up Podcast and listen to me, and you know, it'll be cool like everybody else does. But no, this is not Ears Up. This is Dr. Homebrew, and we are back judging another beer from a homebrewer, Jake. Jake, welcome to the show, my dude.
Thanks, man. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going all right, man. It's going all right. I'm sort of coming off the interview you did with Julia from the American Homebrew Association. That was a lot of fun, man.
That was really awesome. And if Cooper had told me I was going to follow her, I wouldn't have dared.
Yeah, what the fuck do you have to say? Yeah. It's almost like we're like, oh, we're gonna give some information, and now we're just gonna talk beer again. But that's what I do, so it's fine. Yeah. No, that was really great. And you know, I go out at the break to get your beers, and my wife goes, "That sounds like you were actually having a lot of fun." I'm like, yeah, well, I was. It was interesting. It was a good time. So if you haven't heard that, by the way, everybody, go check that out. It was the last episode we just did. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. We gotta have Julia back on. That was great. But before we get to Jake's beer, I'm sure Jake has a lot of fun too. Okay, I'm not trying to say he's not.
Fun continues.
Yeah, exactly. I want to thank our sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals. You go to 5starchemicals.com right now and learn about the best ways to clean and sanitize your home brewing equipment, which is, of course, Star San. Of course, it's PBW, and it's the other products they have too. And they have various iterations of PBW and Star San now too. It's like PBW liquid PBW or PBW tablets, that kind of stuff. Check them out. Sign up for their Homebrew Club program. It's totally free. You get tips and tricks. You get a little discount. Maybe you get a little bit of free swag. You never know over there. 5 Star, they'll hook you up. So check them out, 5starchemicals.com. I see I'm out of breath again, man. I don't know. I don't know what it is, man, but I futzed with my settings over the weekend, and I hate the way I sound right now. I thought I'd tell you that. I thought I'd tell you all that right now.
Yeah, I think you sound pretty good, but the moral of the story is don't futz with your settings.
Well, I mean, unless they sucked like mine, but
yeah,
I don't know. And I'm drinking a brown ale I made a couple months ago. Yeah, that looks pretty good. But I think I'm getting some sort of contaminant or something in my beer because like the tail end of that Mexican lager, it's kind of a tartness going on, and this brown ale kind of a tartness now too. So I don't know what's up.
Have you been using PBW? Have you taken apart your ball valves and using PBW?
I've not taken apart my ball valves, but I have been using PBW, of course, in Star San because that's
you should be taking apart your ball valves and using some PBW on there because you might have some lactic kind of hiding in those valves.
I should. I mean, I take apart like my fermenter and stuff, but coming out of the Brewzilla, I don't, and I probably should do that.
That one's, I don't know, to me, that's never as important because it's probably coming out. Well, what temperature is it coming out your Brewzilla? Is it coming out boiling or is it already chilled?
No, it's already chilled.
Yeah, you probably want to
chill in the thing. It's a one vessel.
Yeah, thing. That's what I thought. You probably want to take that apart, not necessarily every time, but maybe every other or third time.
Yeah, I know. I just don't know. You come over.
Change out. Yeah, any plastic transfer equipment. I would just
nothing.
Get rid of the plastic and change that out first. It's always a good culprit.
I don't know.
Like to me, that the Brewzilla is going to heat up to boiling, and if that valve is also going to heat up to boiling or boiling-ish at the same time, to me, this is just my opinion. It's not quite as important to take it apart every time, but it still helps to take it apart from time to time. It does not hurt at all.
Man, I remember on my 10-gallon more beer system that I had that Terrence now has that he still never has used. He still has it, and he just won't bring it over. I don't know why. The first time I took the ball valve apart of that, it was like a year into brewing, and I was brewing like, twice a month or whatever at that point. And there was a knot of mold. And you know how like when mold kind of builds up, it gets hard.
Yeah.
It's like hard mold. And I'm like, oh, fuck, dude, this sucks. Yeah. And there you go. And I've never done it since. Anyway, doesn't matter. Jake, welcome to the show, my guy. What's up? What beer did you send us? What are we doing here? What's going on? We got 2 beers. Are we doing 2 beers today?
That's up to you.
Cooper, tell me, remind me.
We're doing his American Pale Ale today.
Okay. Got it. Perfect.
Yeah. So I sent you an American Pale Ale.
Nice. I love that. I love being so on the ball that I know exactly what's going on in my own show. That's why Cooper is so good. So you sent us American Pale Ale.
As long as someone knows.
Right. Yeah. Is this something you've done before?
Yeah. This is maybe my 6th iteration of it. Just been working on it, tweaking it each time,
That's not an easy style to master. It feels like it because it's such a, easy grain bill, but American Pale Ale, there's a lot of high bars being that have been set in that style.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's also so much variation too, like you can go so many different directions. It's hard to know what the Bryans are going to want.
We're fickle. We might want different stuff day to day. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you got this. You got Sierra Nevada, which I think is the high bar, but it's such a wildly different style than what a lot of people are making and calling pale ales these days. So yeah, you're right. That spectrum is so huge for this one style that I think, guys, correct me if I'm wrong real fast, but I wonder if American Pale Ale is sort of like has the most leeway in most styles comparatively. Like IPA can sort of have like a lot of leeway, but not really. I feel like American Pale Ale can be, kind of on the amber side. It could be higher alcohol or it could be lower alcohol. It could be kind of pale and, variations of bitterness. But I think a lot of other styles, you're both looking at me like
you're wrong.
No, I'm thinking about it. I've always thought Saison was maybe the most malleable, but really, I think you got a good point because. Well, I could digress, but I'm not going to for once. But you're right. Pale ale can go, it has a range of colors, a range of bitterness, a range of hop flavor. It can go from almost a red ale to, in some ways, I love that North Coast red ale. The red seal. Yeah. Red seal is amazing. In some ways, you could almost jam that into like the interface between a pale ale and an IPA. And you could maybe enter that as a pale ale and you might get a little bit of a side eye, but no one's going to kick it out of the category. And go all the way to like Sierra Nevada, which is malty and dark. You go to like, this actually reminds me of New Dogtown from Lagunitas, the classic old one. Remember we tried to brew that on BYOB TV? The classic, they haven't made it for 10 years, but the malt profile that reminds me a little bit of New Dogtown. It's kind of the color is similar to like modern pale ales, which can be, almost hazy, or they can be hazy. I mean, I've had hazy pale ale, which is like a hazy IPA. So I don't think you're wrong, JP. There's a lot of territory you can cover on this style.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's got to be hard, but you did it and you sent it to us and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what, Cooper, why don't you start us off again? Why not? Let's go 2 for 2 or something.
All right. Yeah. So for various reasons, we got 2 bottles of it and we didn't really get to prejudge it. So I just opened the second bottle, but I've got the first one here too, just for fun. And the second one smells and tastes very, very much the same to me as the first one. I'll just say that right now. But had a good fill, light hiss upon opening, medium hop note up front, pleasant and fresh, with the citrusy elements kind of dominating there. A little light resin and faint spice. The hop is kind of, it's upfront, but it's a little bit muted. You get a clean, bready, yet complex enough malt that it's not just base malt and nothing else. It seems like there's some other flavor malts in here, giving it something interesting, a little bready and maybe a little light toast in there. Not getting any DMS or diacetyl. Low fruity esters, just light overall and pretty inviting. Seems like a clean ale. I'm not getting anything really off in here in the nose. Appearance wise, and we did, full disclosure, we did transfer these beers to each other yesterday. So any haze could be coincidental, but it's an orangey, kind of medium light amber color, bit of haze, has a finely formed head of eggshell white bubbles, creamy, mostly finer foam stand, and it is fairly persistent. It's sticking around for pretty well and clinging to the sides of the glass. Then in the flavor, I'm getting a pleasant balance between the malts and the hops here. The hops are just assertive enough, kind of medium, citrusy, and a touch of some other things in there. It's not so resiny to me now, but if I had to grab at something else, it's mostly that citrusy fruit and a little bit of spice or resin in there. Base malt with a bit of bread crust-like complexity, medium low. Seems like a cleanly fermented ale. The bitterness is medium low, not really challenging anything too much there. I would say it's balanced slightly to the hop. It's not super malty beer, but it's not one of those really over the top hoppy pale ale. Maybe leaning more towards the classic older like 90s version of the style than it is to like some of these newer pale ales that are IPAs in disguise. The hops linger in the aftertaste just a bit. There's no DMS or diacetyl or acetaldehyde going on here. So I give it pretty high marks for flavor. Mouthfeel wise, it's got a pretty firm kind of medium to medium high carbonation in that range. No warmth, not very creamy, no astringency or biting quality. Just kind of a medium light bodied beer, pretty refreshing. Pretty nice mouthfeel there. It's nice that the beer is not too watery. It has some substance to it, even though it's medium light bodied. It's not wimpy. Anyway, overall impression hits all the right marks. For the most part, for an American pale ale, and it's a fairly well brewed classic type. Maybe harkening to something like a Sierra Nevada, but Sierra Nevada, when you get it fresh, especially, it's going to be a lot hoppier in the nose, and the aroma, and in the flavor, hops. Than this one is coming across. I would just want a little more that fresh hop aroma. It's just coming across a bit muted here, but still very pleasant to drink, really refreshing, smooth, clean, and refreshing. But yeah, with your pale ale, it's just, you don't want to allow them to age too much. Not getting any oxidation really. But you can also add a little more late hops to get it to stick around a little bit better, even if you have to. I mean, maybe this is super fresh. I'm not sure, but it's just a little muted overall, but kind of in the territory of Sierra Nevada like. And I don't know if you're trying to clone any specific beer. I'd love to talk about the inspiration for it, but I landed on a 36 for this beer. It's in very good territory, generally meeting the style parameters. Kind of not really any flaws, but I would say just kind of balance wise, I would like that hop to come up a little bit more primarily to fully fit even like the classic version of the style from the, this is one of the earliest craft beers that was out there that, helped people discover beer. It tasted an American pale ale. I was like, wow, back in the 90s, this was something shocking to people. This was not going to shock anybody necessarily, but it's real smooth and easy to drink, and I appreciate it for what it is. So thank you for sharing.
I don't want my beer to shock me anymore.
No,
it's not 2001 anymore. Right. I want my beer to be enjoyable.
The IBU wars are over. Yeah.
My God. Yeah. Did we win or lose that? I can't remember.
Oh, we lost.
Okay, that's fair. I don't know. I feel like we won with the rise of like Pilsners again. I feel like maybe we've won, but maybe it's the war that will never end.
That mindset lost.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Don't tell them that though. Shar, go ahead. Cooper, why don't you go ahead and go again? Why don't you just do that? Yeah.
No, let's lead on B2.
Yeah, B2. Let's go.
Okay. So, Jake, I have to ask you the question I forgot to ask Julia in the last show, to my chagrin. But you probably know what's coming. Are you in a homebrew club?
Yeah, I am. Just recently joined one, actually. The Latter-day Brewers in Salt Lake.
That's very funny. That's very.
Oh God!
That's very funny.
Your club wins. That is the maybe the best name I've ever heard of.
Do you guys
for a
have
homebrew
to
club.
wear magical underwear while you brew? That's the question.
I think that's a really good idea.
Thank you.
A couple of my neighbors have a pair I could probably borrow. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you probably wouldn't want to be nude because there's like flames and hot liquids and stuff.
No.
So having a little extra protection, some kind of extra magic underwear cannot hurt you when you're around like hot liquids and flame. So no, that's really cool. So congratulations. Hi to all the Latter-day Brewers. And have your clubmates send some beer to us. So I really enjoyed this beer. Like I was saying earlier, this reminds me a little bit of the old New Dogtown from Lagunitas, which they haven't made for a long time. You may have never had. It's got I think a very similar malt profile to what I remember that beer tasting like. Of course, I probably haven't had it for 8 years, so my memory might be imperfect, but it brings back good memories of that for me. Aroma, I get medium to medium low citrus to tropical hops at an appropriate level. Low malt aroma, which I would convert that to definitely medium malt aroma as it warms up. That's one of the virtues of the show as opposed to judging in a competition. I can judge this beer 2 hours ago and come back to it, and it's room temperature, and it's pleasant here. It's probably 68 or something. So it's not 90. It's not boiling in my house, but it's had a couple hours to kind of warm up to a little warmer temperature where it can release more aroma and more flavor. And sometimes if there's flaws, they'll show up, but I'm not getting anything that's being amplified from an off aroma sense from the temperature. All I'm getting is more good stuff. So I'd say a medium malt aroma, largely base malt. There's a little, I don't know if I'd call it spicy, but there's a little specialty malt in there, maybe even a hint of oat, which I like, but I doubt it's really oat because this is too clear to have an oaty character to it. And I say oat just because I'm taken back to my attempts to clone New Dogtown and probably putting more oat in there than I should have. But I give this 8 out of 10, 8 out of 12. The aroma is fantastic. Appearance 3 out of 3. It's crystal clear, low persistent white head. This head is sat here for 2 hours, and here's what I have in my glass without pouring more anything into it. So that's a feat. It's medium golden color, again, 3 out of 3. Initially, the flavor is turning to flavor. The flavor is medium malt, and I get sort of a spicy / woody hop character, which is interesting because the aroma comes across to me a little more citrus and tropical. And that's one of the magical things that happens in some samples. And it can be any style, it can be different brewers, where you get an aroma that is one thing, and then the flavor has like a different hop profile or malt profile or what have you. And sometimes that's disappointing because the aroma makes a promise that the flavor doesn't keep in a sense. But sometimes it's just fun and kind of surprising to me, like in this one, where I like the aroma, but I also like the flavor. It's not like the aroma was fantastic and the flavor was a letdown. And that's kind of that promise that doesn't get kept. This is aroma that was, I think, really good. And then a flavor that's also really good, but a little bit different than I expected from the aroma. Bitterness balances in mid-palate. I think it's, and the balance carries through all the way. I may echo Coop a little bit where I might want a little more, hop character, but in some ways, but in other ways, this is not, in 2023, a pale ale is kind of a baby IPA, like the style guidelines use language, not the exact language, but, people have kind of accepted the idea that a pale ale is somehow just like a session IPA. But it's not. It's a distinct style. And I think that Cooper was alluding to Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. This is maybe a little, I'd liken it more to New Dogtown, but they're both in that kind of family of maltier pale ales. Maybe a little bit more bitterness would be nice, but I think it's still appropriate the way it is. It's well attenuated. The finish is long and balanced. I gave this 14 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 5 out of 5. Medium body, medium carbonation, no warming, neither creamy nor astringent. Overall impression, gave it a 7 for a total of 37 out of 50, which is very good. And probably I should come out. Frankly, I'm going to adjust on the fly and give you an excellent. I'm going to take you to 38 as it's warmed up. This is the live updates that you only get on Dr. Homebrew. This is a really good beer. Thanks for sharing. I'll give you a little backstory on this.
Here we go.
When Cooper and I were discussing this beer before the show, I had opened one bottle of this and I gave it a 22. It was phenolic. It was muddled. It didn't taste like much of anything. And Coop was vehement that it's high 30s. This is, you're essentially you're high B2. What's up? And I went out to the fridge, and thankfully you sent us 2 bottles for each of us. And I opened that second bottle, and I ran off to do a couple of things. And 2 minutes later, I came back, and I had poured a sample. I smelled it, and I'm like, okay, already. And I texted Cooper, already, this is a much different beer than the previous one. So there was significant. And Cooper talked about opening a second bottle when he was in the context of him judging this. For me, there was a gigantic amount of bottle variation in these 2 beers, literally a 22 to a 38. And phenol can be wild yeasts. It could be, I actually got a wisp of bleach. If you're using bleach anywhere in your process, and I doubt you are, don't. For listeners, Jake is shaking his head. Listeners, do not use bleach. Don't put bleach near your process. It pits stainless steel. It lingers. It causes chlorophenol. It's great for your laundry sometimes if you're trying to get those stains out of your whites. It's horrible for anything to do with brewing. Don't. They told us to use that stuff in 1991. They were wrong. They were wrong then. They're wrong now. But I think that your process for brewing is fantastic. Your recipe is fantastic. You made an excellent beer. I really enjoyed the second bottle. Packaging is the bane of almost everyone's existence. I'm sure 1 or 2 listeners are like, I don't know. I love packaging. Packaging is the best. I don't like to brew. I just like to bottle and keg. Because there's something that everyone likes something. So someone is like, what are you talking about, dude? Packaging is the best. For most of us, it sucks. And bottling is the hardest part, is like the hardest part of packaging, because you have to go through individual bottles, and how do you sanitize them, and how do you get them ready? It's I don't mean to harp on it or make you sound like I'm putting you down or anything. This is more for like the listeners' benefit in general. But it's if you're gonna bottle your beer, and if you're gonna enter it in competition, which is usually why you want to bottle your beer, take the time to make sure those bottles are clean and sanitized. That's why you have 3 bottles for a competition. You have 1 for best of show in case you go to best of show. You have 2 bottles in case one comes across bad. The problem in competition is that if you get a bad bottle, not everyone always will go back and ask for the second bottle, right? You're scoring someone a second too. Yeah.
I got a bad bottle. I gotta get it overflowing, and I gotta move fast.
Yeah.
What did you give it, Shar? Sorry.
I gave it a 38. And I'm going to stop yammering on about that. But it's just that packaging is, just to remind everyone out in the audience, when you're packaging for competition,
yes,
be sure everything's sanitary.
Absolutely do that. Absolutely do that. You know what? I like this beer before we actually, we're gonna take a break, and then we're gonna get into it, because we've been yammering for a little bit.
I want to know what JP thinks of this beer too.
I like it. I do think there is. I get like a. Now I'm gonna taste it again because I was drinking my brown ale. gonna pull a Brian Cooper and just mid thought take 5 hours to taste this. There is a little oniony garlic thing, like a green garlic,
A CTZ hop kind of a thing.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I've never been really good with hop names.
With Summit, like a little bit of Summit.
I guess. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only distracting thing for this. The way that I enjoy pale ales, there's a lot going on now, actually. It feels like it's hopped more like an IPA. The bitterness is maybe a little too high. I would love just a little bit of caramel malt, just a little bit of like Crystal 15, just a touch, just a smidge, wave it over the kettle. Just to get the body up a little bit. But I do like it. I do like this beer. I would give it a 38. If I had this in a bar, I'd be like, pale ale. I don't know. It just seems kind of like a session beer, blah, 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 blah. But not really. I like it. I think there's that garlic. The garlic thing is a little distracting to me. But that's it. I like the beer. I think it's good. I'll probably finish the whole thing. So let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to hear from Jake. We're going to hear about his recipe, his method, and we're going to tell him whatever he wants to hear. So hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
What's up, homebrewers? Hey, let me ask you a question. You spend a lot of time making your beer taste the way you want it to, right? Some of you even send beers into Dr. Homebrew for feedback. Well, the next logical step in your creativity is to craft some labels for those beers. And there's nobody better at creative labels than GrogTag. Their easy-to-use designs let you turn out some pretty amazing stuff like labels, bottle caps, coasters, even six-pack carriers with minimal effort on your part. They have a range of label sizes that fit any vessel you can think of. Bottles, cans, growlers, kegs. GrogTag has you covered. Head over to grogtag.com today and check out their line of amazing, fully customizable templates and get your beer looking its best. GrogTags are water-resistant, reusable, and will have your naked bottles looking great in no time. That's grogtag.com, and be sure to use code BNARMY at checkout to save 10% on your order.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
Thanks for sticking around, everybody. Jake, tell me about this beer, man. Let's get into it.
Sorry, I just jacked up your re-intro.
Yeah, it's all right, man. Don't worry. I'm doing a thing now where it's all multi-track, so I'll just shave it off. It'll be great.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. You want to go into recipe?
Let's do it. Let's do recipe, man.
Okay. So this is 50% Maris Otter, 40% Barca Pilsner, 8% Carapils, 8% Victory, 5 ounces. No. Hold on. Not 8%. Sorry. I'm reading ounces. 4% Carapils, 4% Victory malt, 2.5% Caramel 40. That's the grain bill.
Caramel 40. Okay.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it. Looking at this thing, you wouldn't know it.
There was 3/4 of an ounce of Magnum at first wort, an ounce of Cascade, an ounce of Simcoe at 20 minutes, a half an ounce of Chinook at 10. And then in the Whirlpool, I did an ounce of Cascade, 3/4 ounce Simcoe, half ounce Chinook for a 20-minute Whirlpool. And then later, a couple of days, I think 7 days later or so, I did a dry hop of ounce and a half Cascade, ounce and a half Simcoe, fermented with WLP 001.
What do you want out of this beer, Jake?
So
what are you looking for?
So I like this beer a lot, but the score it always gets is like a 36. And so I want to just elevate it a little, but I've just been stubbornly sticking with the same recipe because it's like my own.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, my question for you is, can I get this to like a 40-point beer without making massive changes, or do I need to change the grist, change the hop schedule, just maybe even?
I don't think so. I think you can. I don't think you need to really strip it down to the studs.
No.
My first impression, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. My first impression, there's too much in the malt going on. I don't think you need a Carapils. I don't think you need the Victor. I really don't. I mean, maybe the Victory adds a little bit of biscuity thing, and that's fine. The Caramel 40, I don't really think does anything. I think it's too low it doesn't really add any color. You could tell me that this was, Victory and just straight 2-row, and I'd believe you. So maybe there's something in that. The hops, my first impression was that like maybe there's too many. You got too many spiky things pointing out. Like you have Simcoe and Cascade and whatever the fuck you had said.
Chinook too, yeah.
Yeah, Chinook. But thinking about how it tastes now, garlic aside, I kind of like it. It is very reminiscent, like B2 said about of a Lagunitas sort of hop structure. Where it's not really discernible what hop it is. It's sort of, they have a hop flavor. That's my impression of their beers. They're hot. You can always really tell a Lagunitas beer. They have like just this, I don't want to call it muddled, but a blend of hops that it's sort of
integrated.
Yeah, right. There you go. So I do kind of like that. If we can get rid of that garlic thing and maybe do something different with the malt a little bit, I don't see why this couldn't be over 40. What do you guys think? Am I wrong?
So yeah, the points on the malt bill, I'm not sure. Yeah, what the Carapils or the Victory are doing for it. I think that the Victory is probably giving it a little bit of that kind of classic, a little bit maltier pale ale side of things.
Yeah, I think it's very like 90s pale ale recipe, which I appreciate. Yeah.
You could play with. You could try to up the caramel 40 a little bit, like JP's suggesting, but I don't want it to get super caramelly either. I kind of like my pale ales on the lighter side. You can just stick with those base malts and a little bit of Munich or something, a little bit of light Munich, and maybe that caramel at the percentage you have it at now, and see how that plays. But yeah.
Remind me again, Jake. What's the percent of the caramel and the Victory?
The caramel is like 2.5%, and the Victory was 4%.
I like the Victory. But I think that's giving it the flavor. It's kind of be a little bit sticking out, like JP would say, a little bit pointy there. And I think I like it, but I think that might be off-putting to some judges, and I might consider dialing that back to like 2%, like with the caramel. And that'll reduce some of the perceived. I think just doing that will reduce a lot of the perceived maltiness, and then maybe jacking up the bitterness a little bit.
There's a lot of Pils malt in here too, and I wonder if you do like a pretty long boil to make sure you get rid of that DMS precursor.
I'm not. It's just a 60-minute boil.
Okay,
so I'm
not getting any DMS in it really, but. You're mixing a nice, complex English malt with the Pils malt, which is just light and going to just probably dry it out a little bit, but give it a little bit of flavor. I don't know. Yeah, I was looking at that blend and thinking that's not how I've ever made a pale ale. I like blending Maris Otter with US, base malt, sometimes at a 50-50 kind of ratio, and getting a little bit of more characterful maltiness from the Maris Otter, and then some just dry, basic, clean malt from the American 2-row. You could try 2-row instead of the Pils if you wanted, as and adjust that percentage however you want. I personally like Maris Otter malt. It's going to do better with English beers. It's going to give you more malt complexity, but I think we all got a fair amount of malt complexity in this, and in a beer like a pale ale, to get it, JP will differ, but to get it out of the way of the hops and let the hops shine a little bit more.
Get the malt out of the way of the hops? Are you kidding me?
Getting the malt out of the way of the hops for a modern style pale
in a pale ale. You're high, dude. You're high on a mixture of chemicals.
For a modern style pale ale, the kind that you describe as a session IPA or a light. Anyway, but yeah, and I can drink them both ways. Like a good classic pale ale. This is leaning more that way to me. I think that the Simcoe is poking out a little sharply. and the Chinook maybe a little bit. I like the Cascade and the Magnum for bittering, but
well, that's a kind of a good. That's to interrupt you, Coop, but that you're as we list out the hops. I mean, in 2023, for better or worse, some judges, I think especially less experienced judges, may kind of be looking for the new school tropical. What are the new hops of the 2020s? And Simcoe and Chinook can be a little divisive. Not everyone enjoys Simcoe and or Chinook in particular. And maybe changing up your hop bill a little bit, maybe adding in like a newer school, a hop that you might, like an Idaho 7 or something, maybe you might personally enjoy, to give it a little bit of a little bit more new school element to it. You don't have to replace everything or dial back everything, but that's just a thought. If you're trying to appeal, you're trying to move up in score in competition, that could help.
Simcoe still gets used a lot, and it's way different from the early days when it tasted like cat pee and smelled like cat pee. But Chinook is still, to me, pretty much the same. It comes across as like a grapefruity citrus and a resiny, piney aspect. A lot of people don't like that piney aspect. I like it in a richer, like a red ale or a strong, American strong ale or things like that, where it punches you and you get it up there and it's really gnarly and it has a good bite with that resiny, grapefruity twist. But here, I don't know how many favors the Chinook is doing the beer. I might have missed one other hop in the early part: Magnum, Simcoe, Chinook, and something else.
Is that what you had, Jake? Magnum, Simcoe, and Chinook,
and Cascade,
and the Cascade. Yeah, the Cascade. Yeah. Keep all the Cascade. It's great.
Yeah, I'm leaning. I agree with Coop. Maybe just like taking out the Chinook altogether. Changing up your hop balance. That might help you out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I see what you mean, Jake, about I don't know. This beer is like 80. This beer's like 90% there.
Yeah.
And I can sympathize with that feeling of like sort of vibrating it. Like, what else can I do? I know there's a solution to this puzzle.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're getting
I was originally a little bit higher too. And when Brian told me he'd scored it at 22, I was like, oh, I better come down a couple points. But we're all right there on that. Like it's very good to excellent, like 38 kind of territory. I could give it a 38 and I could agree to a 38 with you guys now after talking about it a little bit more.
Like I would have no problem paying for this twice.
Me either.
I can. What do you mean? Are you selling it?
The feds might have a little issue with that.
Well, to get to a 48, it would. I don't know if your sample has been hazy because again, the transport was an issue. I'm not sure how much that may be. Whatever got stirred up in the sediment may be affecting the flavor of our samples too. But in a competition, you want it to be brilliant and shine. You want to fine it. You do the biofine or whatever you need to do to get it to settle out and just drop brilliantly clear.
Yeah, I think mine is a little more clear than yours, but it's not perfect. I've had previous iterations go a little more clear. So,
and also like in competition, what is that 1 point?
I'll forgive a small amount of haze too. You can have hop haze in any IPA or pale ale, but you don't want to get too crazy.
So what do you think, Jake? What are you going to do?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned dropping the Chinook because this is the first version I've added it to. So
interesting.
Error.
Because all the feedback I get is like, it's really good, up the bitterness. So I thought I was up in the bitterness, added Chinook and just more of everything kind of. So when you guys say up the bitterness, what do you mean? Do you mean back end? Like, like the more Magnum, more bittering hop? Or
to be clear, I don't agree with this.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like
you're like Peck in Ghostbusters. You want to shut down the fucking containment grid, and I am fucking Egon going, like this is a very bad idea, and you're like, shut it down now.
Yeah.
Thanks to Dickless here. Is this true?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, it's true.
This man has no dick.
Yeah. All right.
You know, I think we were talking about is like perceived bitterness. And that's where I was kind of thinking about backing off on the Victory malt, because I like that flavor that it brings to the malt, but I think it might be too much. And I think that might be reducing the perceived bitterness of the beer from where it actually is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you can attack from both ends there, is you want to have a good malt profile. And I don't think you should take out the Victory at all. I just think backing it down to the same percent as the caramel will, I think, give you some complexity. And, you know, Victory is a great malt. I mean, it's not as strong as like a Special B where like 2% is going to overwhelm the entire beer, right? But it's strong enough. There's enough flavor contribution from that I think going from 4% to 2%, it'll still be really noticeable, but it's going to make it's going to reduce the perceived malt quite a bit, which gives the bitterness more room to express itself, if that makes sense.
It's times like these that I'm reminded of Colin Kaminsky years ago from the old Downtown Joes, and just a big brainiac, dummy.
Awesome dude.
But he had this thing where he would do, it's 100 grain recipe. Where if you take your beers, your beer grains, totaling 100%, right? Your grain bill. And then so if you had 50%, you would take 50 grains of the base malt. And if you have 2%, it'd be 2 grains. Anyway, get them all up to add up to 100%. This is how out there this kid is. And then you take them all up and you put them in your mouth, and you let them soak a little bit, and then you start chewing them, and then you turn them in your mouth. You don't swallow, but you let the saliva in your mouth sort of convert some of these starches to sugars, and you get a general approximation of your grain bill, of how that will taste, in the mash. This might be like a cool thing, especially when we're talking about like 2 percentage points of grain of malt. This might be kind of an interesting thing to try that. To get a bunch of malt, and then do a couple piles of this 100 grain recipe. And it's like, oh, is the Cara Pilsen Victory really doing anything? Can I take it up to 4%, or do I pull it back to 2%, or do whatever without having to brew multiple batches? Mm-hmm. Because I think everything else is fine. I think, like I said, I think you're 90% there, but I think we're talking about the dialing in points, which is what we want to be, right?
Right.
So I think you have everything there. I think we can all agree your fermentation is great. Everything is fine. Your packaging is fine. Everything's fine.
The water seems really good too. I think that the water is right.
Okay.
It's not too minerally,
but
not too.
These things. I don't know. Try the
take out the divisive hop that people don't like. I mean, not everyone likes Chinook. It's I'd say it's kind of like Summit or some of the others. I mean, it's like Cooper was saying, a lot of times it works out better in like a red or a darker beer. It can be a little overwhelming sometimes in a lighter beer.
Right on. Would you substitute Chinook or just take it out and not add anything else?
I would substitute something else in. What? I don't know. Maybe you up everything. Well, maybe you up everything else.
If you want to keep it there more, you want to keep it more on the classic side. Do something like a Centennial in there. If you want to go a little more modern, maybe the Idaho 7 Brian mentioned, or a Mosaic or Citra.
Mosaic, yeah.
But yeah, you can play with that. Sometimes different hops play better with others. If you want to go a little more modern, the Citra Mosaic is what a lot of people are using these days.
Yeah, and I've been deliberately not doing that, just trying to keep it old school, because that's what I like. Yeah. Another interesting one is the 07270. It's like I think they're calling it Altus now. Finally named it, but that's a little more on the kind of dank side and not so much the new tropical, but it blends well with other hops too. Play with some of that perhaps. Okay, 7 is fun, but
it's interesting. So I'm on the Lagunitas page, and I just Googled new Dogtown Pale Ale, which is actually extra pale. I don't know. Who knows, man? They've changed it up so much. So Right now, it's new Dogtown Extra Pale Ale, but it's a 7.5%. So whatever that means. But they're using Amarillo, Simcoe, and Mosaic, which I found interesting. I don't know. It's their like they call it disorderly house of brewing, which I guess is just maybe their one-off. So I don't know. So that's interesting, but I don't know. Here we go. Let's see. Dogtown Pale Ale. I'm trying to figure it out because I love it, and not that you're trying to go for that specifically, but we're getting a lot of parallels. So maybe there's something there, and there's nothing. They're not saying anything.
Yeah, that's a good avenue to pursue. I'll check that out.
Yeah, check it out, man. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? Who cares?
Who cares?
Anything else, Jake?
Don't check it out. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, do it. Don't. I don't fucking give a shit, dude. I don't know.
I love your attitude.
I'm gonna go to bed. Yeah. New Dogtown Pale, 6.2%.
Huh. Okay.
Fucking hell, man. That is wild to me. Anyway, sorry, Jake. What do you have anything else that you want to cover for these boys, or should we let you go?
I'm trying to figure out why Char's first bottle was such shit. And I'm not sure because I use.
So is he, man.
I use new bottles, beer gun, same process. It's really weird. So I'm glad that wasn't your lasting impression because.
No, and Jake, I apologize if it seemed like I was beating you up for that.
No.
It's really more. I mean, it's so many things can happen. It's happened to all of us. It's really more of just a point I wanted to make for someone that might listen to the archives in 5 years. Who's wondering what a difference that can make. And the bottle variation can make a gigantic difference. And for whatever reason, sometimes it's just, the smallest, you can do your best and sometimes it happens. Right. And that's just, I'm glad that I got the bottle that was 38 after I got the bottle that I thought was 22.
Yeah. Imagine if that was reversed. I found it. So a new Dogtown Pale had Magnum, Amarillo, Cascade, and Simcoe.
Okay,
so that's interesting. I mean, it's all
similar
hops.
Really
yeah,
close.
Right. So I don't know, I just find that interesting.
Yeah, maybe that's my next move. I'll chuck some Amarillo in there and see what it does.
Hey, Amarillo is it's a great hop.
I tell you, at back at Rare Barrel when those dudes were around. The best beer I ever had was their apricot sour with Amarillo.
Oh God, that's so good. That was so good.
Dry hopped with Amarillo.
Oh my God,
so good, dude. It was. I don't know what about those two things. Actually, no, that's not true. They had a dry hop sour with Amarillo, and I liked the apricot one too. So I had them blend the two for my wedding beer. That's where it's coming from, and it was.
Oh God,
phenomenal. I kept trying to take it off tap because I wanted to save it so I could have some. Because when you get married, you gotta take the pictures, and you gotta do the shit, you gotta do all that. And people kept putting it back on. It was gone. I never got a single fucking drop of it. For the wedding, right? But beforehand I did. Anyway, whatever. Jake, if that's it, man, we'll let you go.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
we'll
brother.
Do your pumpkin beer.
Thanks for being on, Jake.
Yeah, we'll do your pumpkin beer next month.
Right on. Thanks.
Cool. All right, man. And we're going to take a quick break, everyone. Hang on. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back with something. I don't know what.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, thanks for joining us, everybody, or thanks for sticking around, or whatever you're doing. I appreciate you doing the thing. we are going to chat a little bit. I gave the boys 2 of these beers that I picked up from the 21st Amendment, and it's not, not meant to be a plug. But I thought they were interesting beers, and I like sharing different beers. One of them is Monk's Blood, of course, which is the famous beer that's made with real monk that Sully's been brewing for a long time. This is a beer. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is, number one, it's a Belgian-style dark ale, which we don't get a whole lot of, right? And I think these are, Monk's Blood, I think, was started when like Belgian-style dark beers were sort of popular. When was that? 10 years ago or whatever? 15 years ago? It's like that was the thing, right?
Yeah.
For about 6 months. But this beer is good. And it was one of the only ones that I think endured commercially because it was so good. It was so well balanced. I mean, these beers are hard to brew. I'm sure everyone listening has at least tried this one time. I know I have.
So you're going to work. Yeah. If we're going to order these, we're putting this ahead of the Kolsch with Mandarin Orange, though.
Nope, we're not. I'm just pouring it. Yeah, so we're doing this, and I bought Monk's Blood at the 2&A like a month ago, and they're selling like library beers. So this was brewed in 2019.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Still tastes really great. And so
capsule.
Thank you, Cooper, for reminding me. And then the other beer I have is from their recent August Fest in 2023. So those of you who don't know, if you're not in the Bay Area, 21st Amendment does a big festival in August. It's called August Fest. And so they brew a beer every year. And this is a Kolsch with Mandarin Orange, and it's 4.8%. Kettle hops are Kelsing, which are experimental hops. So I thought it might be fun. And first of all, I love the label. It's kind of fun and yeah. So anyway, I thought it might be fun to just sort of taste through these, and we'll just kind of bullshit for the last 5 minutes of the show or whatever.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? We're doing the August Fest.
The August Fest is bright. That Mandarin Orange just comes through right up front. It almost smells like it's going to be a tart beer. Like it smells like this is a kettle sour or something. What do we have going on?
You know what? Yeah, it is. It's very it's very bright. It I don't want to say acidic, but I guess I sort of mean it sort of tastes the way salty smells. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get like a
wow, that makes
kind of
perfect
salty
sense.
It does, right? It makes. I'm telling you, I'm a fucking super taster.
Like
okay,
it goes,
I swear to God, Nicole Ernie and I should just we're redefining terms or something. I don't know, man.
I haven't tasted it yet, so I keep smelling it. It's like I get that same thing. It's like a goza, and it's got that.
And you know what? It's sharp and bright enough where it's almost on the verge of being like mint chocolate chip, kind of minty. You know, when you like when you smell mint chocolate chip like out of the pint or whatever, right? It's that cold plus the mint. You know, it's not just mint, but it's that sharpness from the cold and the mint. It's like on the borders of that. Not that it's minty by any means, but it's that same sort of tangent.
I hear you.
So Kolsch is the base style here, and we've got
Kolsch is the base style, yeah.
Kiesling hop.
Yeah. Kiesling, is that what I said? Yeah, Kiesling. Never heard
Kiesling, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a German experimental hop.
What do you guys think?
And it's not tart, but there is a little acidity from the Mandarin Orange in the flavor. The flavor is totally different from the nose, but it's well balanced Kolsch with the Mandarin Orange flavor here.
What I like about it, and what at first I didn't, I'll be honest. So Sully, if you're listening to this, I apologize. But at first I was like, oh, the Mandarin Orange must have faded out because I don't really taste it. But it tastes the same way it did when I had it last month. So I wonder if it's just a low level. And so for me, I don't think I get it a whole lot. I don't think I get a lot of Mandarin Orange.
It'd be easy to overpower a beer like a Kolsch with a big Mandarin Orange. You're just like, oh, it tastes like orange soda. Great, you know.
Yeah.
You don't take a balanced approach to blending your fruit with your beer.
You think that's it?
I'm not a big fan of fruit beers, honestly, when a lot of them are just way out of balance. And this is a 4.8% basis that you're working from here. So
I guess I'm used to like a Hell or High Mango or Hell or High Watermelon that has a lot of that flavor, but it's not overpowering. But I guess you're right. It's that base beer where the wheat beer has a lot of structure to support that, where a Kolsch doesn't by design.
Right. Well, I mean, you can use wheat in a Kolsch beer too, but I wonder if there is any. There is a certain graininess that you can still get through, from the Kolsch malt, that comes through alongside that fruit, and it's kind of nice because you get both. It tastes like a beer.
I do enjoy it. Mine is very cold, which I appreciate right now. But I do like it, and there is that mandarin orange. I mean, I'm assuming it's mandarin orange. I couldn't tell you what a fucking mandarin orange tastes like. I imagine what I think of mandarin orange is like a sweeter, like a darker, sweeter citrus. And that's kind of what I'm pulling out.
There's still a little bit of tartness, like those little cups you get with the orange and the liquid that you, right?
Oh, yeah, but it's all like sugar syrup. So it all just tastes the same anyway, except like the grapes or whatever. Maybe those tasted different, but everything else just sort of tastes like sugar syrup. Like pear.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, pear. Can we just all
isn't
agree
it
that
like,
pears are gross?
Isn't a mandarin orange like what they call a cutie, like at the grocery store, like what little kids like? Maybe,
yeah.
And I always kind of think of them like
those are
that.
Clementines, I think.
That's right. It's a clementine. Sorry. My bad.
It's interesting. So I'm drinking out of this like really small water glass because you know me. I got to put things into weird shaped glasses, not these like 10-ounce straight walled. And off to the side. So if I tilt it like I'm going to drink it, but it doesn't hit my lips, and this is weird, I know. But if I smell it that way, I get a ton of like orange peel aromatics that way. It's very odd. God, beer glass shape is so weird. It used to be a thing where I thought was just total bullshit, like fucking astrology. Like there's a guy I saw that he thinks he can tell people what sign they are just by looking at them. And this whole thing, he did like 25 people and he was wrong every time. But beer glass design was always like that. It was like astrology or tarot card reading. It's like, I don't know, maybe I'm right. Who fucking knows? But I think it really is a thing now, because this definitely, when I drank this, I drank it out of a can the first time, first of all, which is bad. But drinking out of this glass, I get the mandarin orange much more than I did. It is a tart, citrusy, almost like a lime tartness
or a lemony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the aromatic, and it really does work well with a Kolsch. I'm telling you. At first, I thought when I first had this, I was like, I think it's faded, whatever. But no, it's cool.
It cuts the Kolsch a little bit with that slight acidity, and then it just kind of plays alongside it. It's not bad. Not bad at all.
I like it.
Okay.
And as it warms up, it's kind of good too. This is cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm discovering it for the first time.
Nice.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, I really like I like this beer a lot. It's a lot more complex than you would think that. I mean, from the description, it's like you're saying earlier, it's some orange and some Kolsch. Orange will overwhelm the Kolsch. There's not much to this. This is actually really a complex and interesting beer.
I can see why they served it in August at a summer party.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. Can you imagine? This thing would just be the thirst quenching machine, man.
Yeah.
I wonder how this mandarin orange would be in a Mexican lager. I wonder if it would work.
I bet it would. Show, yeah.
I'm telling you, I can get some of this mandarin orange that Sully uses, and we can brew a Mexican lager again. I think it might clash a little bit. I don't know. I think with a mandarin orange juice, I would think you would need a lighter bodied beer to go, or else I think they would be. I don't know. I kind of want to talk to Sully about how you brew this, because there is a bitterness quality to it.
Yeah.
And do you adjust your bitterness in the Kolsch to account for that or not? How do you R&D this? If it wasn't so late, I would text him and call him.
There's a touch of little bite on the back end, but that makes it play well. It's nice.
I like this beer. This might be one of my favorite 2-1A beers now.
Okay. Well, it might be a one-off, and you'll never get it again, but
probably. Yeah. All right, you want to hit the Monk's Blood real fast, and then we'll take off.
2019 Monk's Blood.
2019 Monk's Blood. Yeah, I was really surprised because I didn't know it was 2019 until I got it home and I looked at the box. I'm like, oh shit, this is some fucking library shit right now.
Pre-pandemic.
It's can aged. Yeah, it is. Oh my God, it has no COVID anywhere possibly in that can.
Belgian style dark ale brewed with cinnamon, vanilla, oak chips, and dried figs. I believe this was a collab with Sean Paxton, if I remember correctly. Is that true? You guys remember that?
I remember that.
The dried figs somehow brought Paxton back into my mind. Now, this beer I do like. I'm not the biggest Belgian dark strong fan. It's very much a tasting beer, not a drinking beer for me. But Monk's Blood I like, and I thought it might be fun to try a 4-year-old properly aged Belgian dark strong. Right? I mean, it's not left out on the fucking shelf at Bevmo or whatever. This is properly aged, library stock in the walk-in at the 21st Amendment. It hasn't left anywhere. It's only known. No. Its only home has been the brewery that it was born in, right?
Exactly.
Well,
the cinnamon really stands out to me. And not excessively so, but the cinnamon I think is pretty prominent. But then, that oak is really well integrated into the beer at this point. It's present, but it's not poking out.
Yeah, it's very well molded, and I would guess you would expect cinnamon to sort of fade out and be tannin, sort of just like develop into tannins.
Mm-hmm.
My first thought is oak chips, and you don't want chips, you want cubes, man. Come on, chips are dumb. But I wonder if there was that choice between chips and cubes, and you go, well, cinnamon's going to age out, it's going to go tannic. So I wonder if you don't put so much tannin in there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like this a lot.
Yeah, it's great. Cooper, what do you think?
I like that the style still comes through with everything else that's going on here too. You do get Belgian dark strong, and it's not like a dark beer like a brown or black ale. It's like this reddish, kind of a beautiful reddish orange beer, like on the coppery side of things, but it's got a lot of color to it. Maybe partially from all the things they're putting in it with the cinnamon and the figs and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it is a very nice light brown, reddish amber kind of color.
All the elements are blending well together. It's got 8 malts, Belgian candy sugar, cinnamon, vanilla bean, dried local black mission figs, and aged on oak. So, and it comes out of a can. This was blowing people's minds back in, 2014 or whatever. Like, right. Wow,
You're right.
Yeah. It's just, it was something very different,
It was very special because I also think back then, we're used to thinking of Belgian beers. They need to be corked and caged, man. That's how you do it.
Right.
And just because that's how the Europeans do it, that's how we have to brew it, because that's the thing. And I think beers like this, specifically Monk's Blood, sort of changed that perception a little bit, because like all corking and caging done is maybe like you can adjust a little bit of micro oxidation or whatever, because, the cork will still let some oxygen in, and maybe you get some flavor contribution from the cork. I feel like maybe things can get corked a little bit.
Yeah.
It is,
it is sort of purish, right?
It is also on the much lighter side for the style. So, Belgian dark strongs can range up to 12%. They'll start at 8. This is 8.3. So it's definitely on the lighter side, but I like that it's, it's approachable, and it's still very much a sipping beer, but, and I wouldn't, go out and drink pint after pint of this either. It just wouldn't work that way.
No,
you can't.
What I would do is, first of all, there's 2 things I would do. One, I would buy a 6-pack and share some with my friends, which I did. But also, I would pull this out like at the end of a tasting session, just kind of as like a final to like cap off the taster session. I would also sort of like to have this side by side with a bottled version, corked and caged, to see how it changed. I don't know. I'd be very curious.
Yeah,
it's a good point, and part of it's the oxidation. Part of it's also the carbonation, right? The cork and cage is like a champagne. Like if it's supposed to be carbonated to a high level, you want to have the cork and cage and a thick bottle to retain that. But I don't know that Belgian Dark Strong has to be carbonated to that high of a level where you need the cork and cage for that.
Right.
I think it is for this style. I think it is more of a presentation aspect for what people's expectations are. Kind of like a cork in a bottle of wine as opposed to a screw top, which is slowly changing, across the wine industry. As cork gets more expensive and more rare, you're seeing screw tops and more, and more medium end wines as opposed to just like the low end wines.
Yeah, well, screw tops, hold back. I mean, that's why, if I remember correctly, I picked this up somewhere. I might be making it up. Who knows? But wax dipped, foil sealed wine bottles and wax dip and whatever, it's to provide that oxygen barrier that a can would provide normally. Because if you just have a cork bleeding out, it does bring in micro oxidation.
Right.
But a screw cap will actually is actually better for your wine storage long term, if I remember correctly, than cork, because you don't have the possibility of having corked wine.
Corked flavor.
Yeah, just you have that bacteria or whatever's in that cork, even though they're treated or whatever. Like synthetic corks are better. There's a whole thing, man. It's a whole industry on that.
Yeah, and one of our entrants was actually just asking about cans and the history of that a little bit, or we were talking about something else. But no, actually, he was asking why they say like tasty crack cans on some of the early.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I'm like, I talked about the time when all you could do was you go into a brew store, or a grocery store if they had craft beer. And you would instantly just like pass by all the cans and go to the bottled beer section, because that's where you'd find where the good stuff started, and the imports and the craft beers and the microbrews and all that would be in 12-ounce bottles or 22-ounce, singles, 12-ounce 6-pack or 12-pack, and just always bottles, because that differentiated craft brew from the other. But this came out actually in 2009, and at the time there were no 16-ounce craft cans everywhere. It was just all, again, like I said, just the bottles in the store. You just go in there. Dale's Pale Ale was doing some stuff in cans. You could see, or the Oscar Blues, but they were doing some cans, and they were one of the pioneers in that. And a can is actually a much better storage delivery mechanism for the beer compared to bottles, which can let in some light, let in some oxygen, and
right.
You don't need to.
Right.
Yeah. Man, it's more expensive. You're paying more for the packaging and
especially here in the States where we can't reuse them.
Yeah.
We can't reuse the bottles. They're not thick enough for whatever the fucking reason is. I've known the glass, lobby, who knows, but in Europe you reuse the bottles all the time. Right.
Yeah.
But here you can't do that. And so I think, at least with cans, you can recycle them.
Yeah,
I mean, bottles Europe, you can too, but whatever. Who cares?
Europe is set up to clean and refill the same bottles multiple times, and culturally, people will get like a case of bottles from a brewery. They'll bring them back to wherever they'll get refilled, cleaned and refilled. People used to do that in America like 60 years ago, but in the U.S. they were never cleaned that well. So nobody wanted to be the guy that went to the bar and got a bottle with a cigarette butt in the bottom of it, which would happen in the US because we would half-ass our cleaning as opposed to like the Germans, because the Germans would never half-ass cleaning a bottle before refilling it. And
I don't think we allow them to. After the war ended, we told them how to live.
Yeah, but we just don't. That's our recycling is based on. We're just going to take everything, put it back together. We'll melt it down, make some new stuff, as opposed to the multiple clean, refill, reuse that they do in Europe. So, yeah, that's just a different process.
I agree. But anyway, I thought these would be good beers to share with you guys. What do you think? Good stuff?
I think this is fun because it holds up.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for sharing this with your friends, JP.
Hey, you're welcome.
The inspiration for this beer is the liquid bread that the monks would drink during fasting time. That's what the tie-in is here with the monk's blood.
There you go.
Kind of reddish color to it and all that.
Made
It's a
with real monk.
very romantic beer, and again, a good sipper this time of year, especially as things are getting colder. It's fun to taste something like this and sip a little bit.
And by colder, we mean 72, everybody, just in case.
Right. We're in California.
Yeah. Anyway, Cooper, if people want to be on this show and send us homebrew like Jake did, how do they do that?
You would email Brian Shar.
At Cross Pond Law.
At his private law firm. Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com, and send us your Monk's Blood clone.
Oh my God, that'd be great. You know what? Here's the thing. If you guys want to brew a beer like this, email Sean, email Sully at fucking 2NA, or message him on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. He's on Instagram a lot. So message him on Instagram and ask him for the recipe. I'm sure he'll give it to you. Brew it, send it to us. That would be cool, man. I would love that. I'd actually really love it.
And if he doesn't give it to you, then call us and we'll help out.
Yeah, we'll go beat him up for it. And it'll be great.
Take him down.
Give us the recipe, O'Sullivan. Like where's the money, Lebowski?
Where's the money, Lebowski?
Give us the recipe, Lebowski.
And that rug really tied the room together.
Fuck. I was gonna make a joke and I forgot what the fuck it was. So who cares? Anyway. Oh yeah. Shar, real fast in 30 seconds. Tell people what you do and how they can get a hold of you if they need you, if they need your services.
I write patent and trademark applications for people, and I also handle administrative disputes for people with patents and trademarks. Patents cover inventions, trademarks cover branding. I'm always happy to answer questions. If you want to talk to me, just ask a question. Initial consultation is always free, the first one's always free.
That's right, baby.
That's my website is crosspondlaw, crosspondlaw.com. Got my contact information on there, and I'm always happy to talk with anybody about trademarks and patents.
That's right. And if you're lucky, you can get something like this of your own, which is a patent little packet with your name and your patent and whatever. It's hard to see.
Is that your Cuvier's thing?
This is my Cuvier's patent thing, man.
Nice.
It's framed. Yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
You should.
I thought it was a certificate, but then it's an actual little booklet with the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
the whole drawing and like whatever.
Wow.
Man, right?
And you're lucky because anymore they e-grant them now, but by the end of this year you'll only get a special PDF. You will not get you won't get that special booklet anymore. So exactly,
dude,
that's
bummer.
You can get it, but you'll have to pay like an extra $20. So it's just up to you. But you'll get like they're trying to save money and save paper or whatever. So
sure.
But yes, you won't. If you extra $20, you can have that one. You can kind of move up and down your arm like Vanna White and show that you've gotten what you've gotten. That'll be cool.
Yeah. So Brian, if you get any really good jobs off of this promo work that we're doing for you for free here, you got to buy us a really special beer. You just have to promise to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the free promo and the opportunity for the plug. And I will share a special beer with my friends if I get get some work out of this.
You know what I just realized? It should be fucking celebration season right now.
It should be.
It's mid-October.
It should be out.
What the fuck is going? I gotta text Byron and see what's going on. I
had actually read something about that like a month ago, and I'm like, okay, let me go to SierraNevada.com.
I can feel it in my bones. I feel celebration is near. All right,
well, my birthday's on the 21st, and sometimes I don't get one until after my birthday. So
that sucks.
I don't know when it gets released, but
that sucks for you.
I know.
Celebration only available October to December. Well, it's October now.
Let's go, baby. I need some. All right, everybody.
Exactly.
Thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you.